Exodus, Parshas Beshalach. What I'd like to do is chapter 15, verse 22. That after the splitting of the sea and the song of the sea, and after Miriam's song, then of course the children of Israel started going on their way. Presumably, they thought they're going straight to the land of Canaan.
You say
Nobody
30,
told.
30, did you say verse 32?
No, 22.
Wow.
Verse 22. Nobody assumed when they left. Nobody had assumed that they were going to be wandering for 40 years in the wilderness. Now it says, "Vayasa Moshe et Yisrael miyam suf." Moshe caused Bnei Israel to journey from the Yam Suf. We don't know exactly where this is to this day. Vayetzu al Midbar Shur. They went to the Midbar Shur. Again, we don't know where that is. Vayelchu shloshes yamim b'midbar v'lo matzu mayim. And they walked 3 days in the wilderness and they ran out of water. What do you think this place would look like if you didn't have water for 3 days? What? Yeah, over there in the corner is a chumash. No, I'm saying obviously you had go down a little bit. Go down. No. To the right, Benji. Right where your hand is. Right in front of you. No. Go down 2 shelves. To the left. Very good, Benji. No, obviously, if you don't drink water for 3 days, you die. But I'm saying, what if the water pipes were cut off in this country for 3 days? There would be pandemonium. So we're in chapter 15, verse 22. What page is it to tell Benji? Page what? 371, Benji. So what happened? Let's look at Rashi says. Isian Bal Karcham. The Jewish people didn't want to leave the Yam Suf. She'itru Mitzrayim es Susayim, because the Egyptians had decorated their horses with gold and silver and jewelry and precious stones. And the Jewish people were collecting them at sea. And there was so much spoil there. It was even greater than the spoils they took from Egypt. So therefore, Moshe had to take them against their will. Against their will, Moshe had to leave them out of Egypt, away from the sea. When I went to Saudi Arabia, we thought that it's possible that where I was in northern Saudi Arabia, it's possible that was where they crossed, because they went from there, you could travel. So I went to the coast there, and there it was pretty, it was like an hour drive to Sinai. So it's possible that that's where they crossed. So just to be sure, I walked into the sea, and you could actually walk really far in because it was low tide. You could go really, really, really far in, but I didn't see any reeds. So I doubt it was because there's no reeds there, but who knows? Maybe the topography changed over the last 3,500 years. But why? Why would it change? It was not developed. It was not a developed area. It was not an area of development. Anyway, so Vayavu Marasa. So after 3 days and they couldn't find water, Vayavu Marasa. They came to this place called Mara. V'lo yaku ishtos mayim mimara. They couldn't drink water from Mara ki marim heim. There was water there, but they couldn't drink it because it was bitter. Alkein karashima Mara. Therefore, they called it Mara. Verse 24. So it did not take long for the people to start complaining. The people were just saved by God in the greatest miracle in the history of humanity, past, present, and future. The greatest miracle. And how long did it take them to complain? 3 days. What? What'd you say? Oh, fair enough. I mean, but it took them 3 days. 3 days, Steve. The people complained. They complained to Moshe, saying, Manishteh, what are we going to drink? They complained to Moshe and said, what are we going to drink? So right away they have their complaint. Vayitzak O Hashem, and he cried out to God. Vayoreu Hashem eitz, and God showed him a tree. Vayashlecho amayim, and he cast the tree into the water. Vayimtiku amayim, and the water became sweet or potable. Sham Samuel choku mishpat v'sham nisahu. There, Moshe gave for them law and justice, and there he tested him. The very interesting law. This verse is very interesting. First of all, why did Moshe throws this tree? What kind of tree is it that he's throwing into the water that makes the water drinkable? And there he gave them laws and judgments. Well, what laws and what judgments is he giving them? We haven't had the Torah yet. What's he giving them? And there he tested it. What did he test there? So we'll see what Rashi says, but Rashi is not going to answer all of our questions. Rashi says the verse, there he gave him law and justice. Rashi says, B'mara nasalem, in Mara he gave to them, hello there, Eliezer Yisrael, such a geschmack to see you. In Mara he gave to them a little bit of the passages of the Torah that they should busy themselves with. He gave them Shabbos, Para Aduma, and the laws involving monetary claims, Dinin. So he gave them these three essential laws. How do we know that he gave them Shabbos? How do we know he gave them Shabbos? Because the next passage, he tells them they know how to collect money on Shabbos. And therefore, since it tells them they can't collect the money on Shabbos, it's clear he had to give them the laws of Shabbos. How do we know they gave them the law of the red heifer? Because the word chok is the word that appears in the passage about the red heifer. And how do we know that there they got judgment? Because it says mishpat. Others say that the Torah Tamima suggests that this is a typo. That he didn't give them the law of the Para Aduma, but he gave them the law of Kibud Av, honoring your parents. But this is strange because why would Kibud Avaim seem so random here? Honoring your father and mother, that's a random law to be putting at this moment. So that's an interesting point that he's making. I don't know. It seems so random to keep. That's what the Torah Tamim is arguing. What do we say? We're in chapter 15, verse 22. What? Yeah. I wanted to see. Okay, so here, the Baal HaTurim says the following: that it gave them law and judgment. This refers to the red heifer. And he says a beautiful thing. He says that just like the stick of a bitter tree sweeten the bitter waters, so too the ashes of the red heifer purify the impure, and contaminate the pure. Hello, my dear friends, Elon and Yoav. Amazing. Okay. So anyway, this is since I can never, like, whenever we get to a fascinating Rashi, I always like to just go a little bit deeper and see what the Rebbe say. And what do the Rebbe say here? He says the following. It says here, hold on. Here we go. Okay. Okay. We're in chapter 15, verse 26, 27. What tree did he throw into the water to make it sweet? So the very good guess, which is a date tree, but the Midrash says he throws in an olive tree. The olive, and it's the most bitter tree. And God heals the bitter with bitterness. The children said, so they threw in the olive tree. They threw in the olive tree. But the Chasam Sofer says, no, he didn't throw in any tree. What did he do? What did he do? He taught them Torah. Because Torah is compared to a tree of life. Torah is a tree of life to those who hold it. So look how different God's words are than from the words of flesh and blood. Flesh and blood, when there's some sweet, heals bitter, but God heals bitterness with bitterness. And if a Torah scholar will engage all of his life in Torah and service, he'll have nothing to eat. And so, Shabbos, I mean, not Shabbos. Good to see you, Noam. Anyway, this is why we say somebody who spends 3 days with bitterness, because you can't go 3 days without Torah. That's why we have the idea that we read the Torah every Monday and Thursday, because you can't go 3 days without Torah. This is from the Chasam Sofer. Anyway, this is, once we're at it, I might as well just check the Rebbe here. Yeah. I saw that the IDF produced like a special case so that the soldiers could carry the Torah on their backs when they go into battle. Very, very good point. So that's what? Yeah, it's a very interesting that they're investing their efforts into this. It's beautiful. To my mind, it's beautiful. Well, they've been carrying the Torah into battle all this time. Yeah, they must have had an ark, but it must have been bulky. Here we go. What type of wood did Moshe throw in the water to make it sweet? So the Mechilta says it was oleander. You know what oleander is? Anybody ever? Is it? It's an extremely bitter plant which is poisonous to animals. Rabbi Yeshua ben Karcha said it was oleander. The Nachmani says at a literal level, it appears that the wood had a natural ability to sweeten the water. And what Hashem taught, and that's what Hashem taught Moshe. But according to the opinion that it was oleander, it must have been a miracle. And the Zohar says the wood was part of the tree of life. What? The Eitz HaChaim from the beginning. Is that what you were going to say? Beautiful. And this is what the Rebbe says. This is what the Lubavitcher Rebbe said about this. He said there are 3 ways to sweeten bitter waters. What are the 3 ways? Well, there are 3 ways to sweeten the bitter waters. See if you could guess what the Rebbe says. 1. What? Okay, so first is dilution. Dilute it with more fresh water. It says this was not used here. We didn't do that approach. Number 2, transforming the bitter flavor into a sweet flavor. That you add an extremely powerful agent. We kind of do this today with like the desalination plants or the water treatments, right? Don't they take sewage and then they sell it to us as bottled water? Don't they do that? They do that, right? Isn't that accurate, Eliezer? They take the water, which you poop in, and they add a little chemicals, and now you can drink it. I'm not mocking it. It's a tremendous achievement. That's why I drink Coke. And then so yeah, I'm just kidding. So the Zohar says that a piece of the tree of life was used to overwhelm the waters and sweeten them. But there's another idea that self-realization, making the bitter waters realize how bad it is to be bitter, so that it becomes sweet on their own accord. That's the opinion of the idea that it was the oleander, meaning to say they once they saw how bad it is to be like that, they made it sweeter. And these are the three approaches to getting rid of evil: either diluting it, revealing a much greater good that makes the evil fade away, or three, teaching the evil how bad it is so that it no longer wishes to be evil. Wow, this is the Rebbe is so beautiful. He takes such a passage that we were just reading, and you see how he just brings it to life with sweetness. I just love the Rebbe. Okay, now we're up to the next verse. Vayomer. What? So you would say charcoal. No, I've been saying for years you need to write your own commentary. It would be amazing. What are you doing as a real estate lawyer? We need you to be a Torah scholar. You can do both. You can do both, Noam. Okay. Yeah. No, you should continue to be a real estate lawyer. You've helped us out many, many times. But in addition to that, also write your commentary on the Torah. Chapter 15, verse 26. Vayomer im shemot tishma'u kol Hashem Elokecha. If you listen to Hashem your God, vayashar beinav taseh, and do what is right in His eyes, v'azantu l'mitzvosav, and you listen to His commandments, and you guard all the laws, and all the afflictions that I placed on Egypt, I will not place on you, because I am God, your healer. Wow, it got dark very fast. Got very dark very fast for the Jewish people. Just 3 days after they left Egypt, God is warning them, if you listen to me, then nothing bad will happen to you. So, okay. Yes. Yeah, but that's what they said. They threw this poison. It's like hemlock. Where does it grow? Does it grow around here? So bitter. Someone that's like they think wow. Yeah, we should plant some in the backyard of the yeshiva so we can understand this Rashi every year. Beautiful. So what is the difference? Rashi tells us here, it says that I place it says, and you listen to the laws, to mitzvosav v'shamartas kol chukav. What's the difference between the mitzvot and his chukav? What's the difference? So Rashi says the chok is those things which are just decrees of the king that we have no explanation. The Yetzer Hara tries to find fault with them, saying, what cause for prohibition is there in these? Why are they prohibited? Like, for example, wearing forbidden mixtures, or chazir, or red heifer. These are laws that are chok. But there's a whole question about, okay, so pretty much everybody agrees that the three that Rashi listed are called a chok. So, for example, the red heifer, eating pork, and also wearing wool and linen. But what about the sexual sins? Are those a chok? Are the sexual sins, are those a chok? So this is a very complicated question. And this, to my mind, is relevant because it goes to the question of when somebody is doing something which is inconsistent with the Torah, a lot of sexual practices today are inconsistent with the Torah. Do we give a reason why the Torah said those practices are prohibited, or we say it's a chok and it's unknowable? So that's why this is relevant. So it's a dispute amongst the commentaries whether those laws are whether we can view those laws as chukim. Okay. Vayavo Elima, and they arrived at Elima. Visham Shtei Mesrei. Oh, this is such a powerful verse too. And there were 12 springs of water there. Sham Shtei Mesrei Notmayim. Vishivim Tamarim, and 70 palm trees. That is what Benji said before. They threw a palm tree. Well, it was a very good guess. Vayachanu Shema Ramayim. And they camped there on the water. So they come to Elim, and well, Moshe, how you doing? You could sit there, Moshe.
Rabbi,
So they came.
I just wanted to comment about the chok. It's much easier for us to respond to the non-Jews saying that it's just what Hashem said, as opposed to trying to give a reason and an explanation and getting into physical or biological arguments.
Right, the reason why we do the law is because God commanded it. The chok is actually the easiest.
Yes, I'm saying so, and especially in terms of the sexual, Rabbi Wallerstein said the way for Jewish students to respond to their non-Jewish peers is just, this is what Hashem said, and that's it, and that way they don't have to struggle with trying to explain why it is or isn't forbidden. So.
Yeah, very. I've also agreed that I've found that that's the most compelling argument today, because everybody is very sensitive about their sexual preferences, and if you start arguing with them, it will not go well. But if you say this is the Torah, I accept it, it's the word of Hashem, and there's a category called chok, and also it also makes sense to me, like, why on some basic level do we say that certain relationships are prohibited and certain are permitted? It seems kind of random that society, and I wish Alan was here because he's a hippie and he could tell us that in hippie societies they don't have the same outlook, sexual ethos that is found in the non-hippie societies. Alan can tell us when he comes back. Because he goes to the rainbow gatherings and they have all sorts of I mean, it's just, so Alan,
Yes,
in the rainbow gatherings, do they have any different sexual practices there?
all kinds. Depends what camp you go to, who you hang out with.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it is. They have their own things. It's like, yeah. All right, on that note, we'll stop. What? Yeah, well, we're not gonna get too